Okay, another one word, not even a question, but another one word at which will be interested to see where we talk, how we expand on this. It's a subject that we are still talking about. It's a subject that was very controversial at the time, and something that I hope will never happen again. COVID.
God dear. You have picked a can of worms there, haven't you?
Why not? Why not?
So what would you like me to say about COVID?
Just to put this into perspective, we are now September 2025. So COVID was started in about March 2020. So just over 5 years ago, just for the purpose of the filming. So I don't know, where do you want to start? COVID.
Okay, well, when this first came to my attention around the time that you just mentioned, I was very skeptical about it. So I decided to investigate the whole business. And the first thing I discovered was that nobody in any of the authorities had actually identified a virus. That this so-called COVID thing had not been tested. There's four. It's called what's it called? I can never pronounce it. There's four ways that you identify whether there is a virus. Okay. Koch's postulate. Koch, yeah. Koch, spelled Koch, postulate, right? And that's the name of this investigation that you follow to discover whether something is a virus or not. Because if it's a virus, then it will be treated in one way. If it's a bacterial infection, it will be treated another way. Okay. But nobody from all the medical people that I investigated and listened to their explanations could find that this had been done. So immediately I thought, hang on a minute, this is not a virus. So what is it? If it's a virus, okay. I have to tell you, I'm not a great believer in vaccines. I really am not. You know, the humans were created with an amazing system for dealing with diseases. You know, and that usually does the trick. If it's an illness that's that naturally occurring and not one that's been created in a laboratory, we can, our immune system can deal with it, and it's incredibly powerful and incredibly complex. Providing we eat the right foods and have decent nutrition, that should deal with everything. So my view was, okay, what is this COVID? And I thought, well, hang on, if it's not a virus and it's not a bacterial thing, what is it? And then I started to think, well, maybe it's nothing. Maybe it doesn't exist. Maybe it's a fear-based idea that's been put out to terrify everybody into taking a vaccine. But if it's not a virus, then a vaccine's not going to deal with it, is it? So I started to think, well, something's going on here. Something that is not at all holy is going on here. And as time went on, and I investigated more and more of this thing, I realised that it was a scam. But it was a very serious scam in the sense that the so-called vaccine, it later became known, was not actually a vaccine at all. It was a gene therapy. In other words, it was designed to change DNA. It was designed to put spike proteins into our bodies so that it would mess with our entire biological system and create all sorts of problems, including death. And we saw all these examples of, young men dying on the sports field, dropping dead, from heart attacks and what have you.
That's since COVID, I guess.
Well, since the vaccine came
since the
out.
vaccine.
Since the vaccination process started.
Yeah, okay. So how do you explain all those thousands of deaths that happened at the very beginning of the epidemic? What did they die from?
It's very simple. They didn't die from it. They didn't die from what they called COVID. They died from something else. I mean, the interesting thing is that if you look at the government statistics, over the period from when the vaccine was launched, the incidence of flu and colds and associated respiratory problems almost was zero. So all that happened was they just diagnosed people with COVID that had influenza or something.
That would have normally...
And actually hospitals were paid to do that.
So you're saying that whereas people would normally have got a cold or the flu or any of those respiratory illnesses, they now got labelled with, you've got COVID.
Yeah.
But
there's more to it.
Okay.
Now, with the rollout of the vaccines, gene therapies, bioweapons is another way of putting it. It was important that not everybody, that there was a massive incidence of problems that was so great that people would realise that something was not quite right. So what they did is they had different strengths of the so-called vaccine. Some were just saline. They weren't the vaccine at all.
Placebo.
Yeah. And who were the people that took those? Well, all the politicians that were going on the TV having their so-called vaccine. They were the ones that were getting those. If you were lucky enough, if you decided that you wanted to go ahead with the treatments, you may have got one of those and you didn't have any side effects at all. And I think there was different strains, and the strongest ones, often could kill you within a few minutes. Some of them, people taken the vaccine and within a few minutes they're gone.
But in the early days, lots and lots of people were dying, and
Still are.
They are, they still are. But there were, all around the world, lots of people in the very early days, by the thousands a day, were dying, in compared to, if you like, the previous year or the previous time where people were dying of flu or flu-related. It was still massively higher. So what were they dying of?
They were dying of the vaccine.
But they hadn't had the vaccine at that point.
I'm not quite sure what you're saying.
So in the early days, so before the vaccines, people were dying. When it first hit out, people were dying in their thousands.
Statistics, we have the statistics, going back years of how many people die each year from influenza.
Absolutely, and in fact, there are many that die anyhow each year. So are you saying that COVID potentially didn't exist? They were just replacing you've died of cold, influenza, whatever, with the label COVID?
Some say. Let me say, this is my opinion.
Absolutely.
Based upon the research that I have done, and because of the implications of this scenario, it was very, very significant for the world, for the economy and for everything. So it is something that I did spend a lot of time looking into.
What was, identify that COVID did exist, or the mass dying of people? Was it a population thing?
Yeah, I mean, you see this. If you wanted to be in a highly profitable business right now, buy undertakers.
Absolutely.
Because they are habits.
Or pharmaceuticals.
I wouldn't say that. No, I would not say that.
Okay.
But I would certainly say that being an undertaker is a righteous business. Okay, let me be very clear about that. It's a righteous business. And they're doing extremely well because the compound effects of these vaccines, and people are still taking them. The NHS is still,
every year,
is still pushing it. And the more you take, the more problems you're going to have. If you look on the packets, you look at all the contraindications, and that means side effects, by the way. All the contraindications. It goes into pages and pages and pages of them. Then what these things do is just... And it may not happen immediately, but once your immune system's been tampered with, and that's what these do, they do tamper with your immune system and affect your ability to heal naturally. Death could occur 5 years from when you're taking it. And certainly cancers have been affected. There's a new terminology called turbo cancers, and a lot of cancer doctors have said, we had a certain level of cancer, and how long it took people to pass once they got cancer, but they suddenly noticed that it speeded up. The process had speeded up enormously. So where a patient may have lasted 12 months, they're now lasting 3 months or less since the onset of the vaccine.
And I guess it's the whole COVID umbrella. It's going to be one of those that, as time goes by, we're going to find more and more things about it, almost retrospectively, aren't we? In 15 years' time, there's going to be a different perception. No, not 15
years' time, the next few months, I think.
Yeah, well, I mean, as time goes by, but for example, in 15 years' time, we're going to have a different perspective and a different set of stats on COVID than we did now or 5 years ago at the time.
I'm gonna not agree with that.
Okay.
What I am going to say is that the harm that these things have caused, and let's not go into all the political aspects of this as well, because there's many of those. But let's just talk about the effect that the vaccines have had on people. Okay, that's all coming out, and there are so many documents that are coming out proving that these things are killers. There was or is a depopulation agenda, very much so, and that was part of it. It affects fertility, it affects so many things, it affects everything. And all these studies that are coming out, and I've read quite a few of them, it's clear as a bell. And also this thing was planned years in advance, and years ago. You can't bring out a vaccine in 3 months. It takes years to do the proper safety things. They planned it a long time ago. It was an orchestrated event.
I think one of the biggest things that got me definitely at the time, and and so much so since, is it appeared to come out of nowhere and spread really, really quickly. Now, even 5 years ago, we're in 2020, the height of our technology, our medical information, our technology advancement, all of that, and we couldn't identify it, we couldn't stop it, and we didn't to stop it spreading. Now, we've lived through the plague, and we've lived through many deaths, 80, 90, 100 years ago, and we've come so far. Put men on the moon, we invent and create so many fantastic things, and yet we couldn't stop the spread of it. That seemed to happen very, very quickly, and it came from nowhere.
Right. Okay, let me say this. There's a very simple answer to that. There is a cabal on this planet that has been highly active for thousands of years, controlling the people on Earth. And this cabal is made up of, I'm going to say evil, because in this context I think it applies. They are evil people who have used the human race for their own personal agendas. And they have an objective, and that objective is called Agenda 30. There was Agenda 21, but Agenda 30. The World Economic Forum is the sort of organisation which is running these programs now. And they have a very clear idea of what they want to see happen in the world, and reducing the population by 90% is one of them. And there are so many ways that they can do that. Wars only really don't kill many people at all. I mean, even in terms of the totality of the population, I mean, Earth's population's about around 8 billion. I mean, the Second World War only killed, I mean this in comparison, only killed 50 million. But if you can come up with something that can kill everybody, even if it's over a period of years, then that will be far more effective. I mean, you talk about the plague. Yeah, the plague killed half the population.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, that was in the because they had nothing to. They didn't have any medication to deal with it. I think within the next, I'm going to say 6 months, the truth about COVID is going to be totally revealed. There's a lot of frightened people out there who know that the truth is going to come out. And the damage it is going to cause to the pharmaceutical industry is, it's going to be very big.
And you think that's going to happen within 6 months?
It's happening now. Every time I go on YouTube, there's some new. Rather
than in 60 years' time when it's a different generation.
We're talking months. Months, because this has got to be stopped. But I do trying to be positive. The dark side has been ramping up its agendas because they know that in the end they can't win. They can't win, and they won't win. So, what can I say? And so it's important that people understand the full magnitude of the horrors that have been inflicted upon the human race, not just through COVID, but in so many other ways too. And it's all being exposed. There has to be a cleaning up of the old system, and people have to understand what it was and what it was about and what it was meant to do. They have to have this exposure, because we're moving into a new earth, a golden age, and so we have to clear up the mess of the old world.
Okay.
We have to do that, and so it will be exposed.
So one way of doing that was COVID is
It was their end game.
Yeah.
It really was their end game. It was that combined with the mark of the beast financial system, which is not going to happen now. So there will be massive exposures of all these dark agendas, and that's one of many. But it was a big one, a really big one.
And it was definitely a controversial subject at the time. There was the government sort of making us abide by their rules and boundaries of, if you don't take the COVID vaccination, then you can't do X, Y, and Z. And there were people that were just doing as they're told, or there were people that were making an informed choice, because majority of people did do the vaccination. And I think it's, a lot of those people have now made their own informed decision about moving forward. Me being one of them, if I'm honest. I can't remember how many vaccines we're up to now, but I definitely had the first 2. I can't remember if I had the third, but I've definitely had no more. And I won't, simply because, time has helped, because it's given me the opportunity to make my own and have my own understanding of it. Is it a risk I'm going to take? Yeah, like anything is, like getting into my car, like, crossing the road. But I know at this stage I won't be taking any more vaccinations. Will that change? I don't know, but I think a lot of people are swaying towards that.
I think people have to generally understand that the most profitable business in the pharmaceutical industry is vaccines.
Yeah, well, the pharmaceutical companies are, they're
there to make money.
Yeah, absolutely. We will definitely come on to one day, not today, come on to the subject of cancer and many other terrible illnesses that are out there that there is still no cure for, and thousands.
There is.
Okay, but that's my point. That is there. But my point is, thousands of pounds goes into the cure for cancer, for example, every single day over my 55 years, and yet there's still allegedly no cure. Now I think there is. There's got to be, but it's a pharmaceutical thing, and it pains me because I have a specific interest in dementia, motor neurons, MS, LLD, other things apart from the horrible cancer, and I look at that and I think, there's a cure for that, or there's something for that can make you living with those horrible illnesses bearable, better, nicer. And it's like, no, you're not kidding me. But my little voice means nothing.
Oh, I don't know about that. You're talking to lots of people now.
Yeah, and it is, I'm entitled to have my opinion. What's it based on? Yeah, that we could be here forever, and maybe it's not based on anything. But it takes me back to the COVID question. That was the biggest thing that got me, was in this day and age, you look at the technology with mobile phones, with eyesight, with cars, with machinery. Every industry is replaced. People have been replaced by machinery and technology, and you're telling me COVID just came like that? And I always remember when it happened in sort of the January, February time, I had a friend that was I'm sure he was in China or one of those lovely countries, and he was halfway through his really long holiday, and he was texting me saying, COVID's hit hard here, and I think we're having to be told to cut short our holiday. Then the next day it really ramped up in the world and in the news, and within 7 days it had gone from that little text message to, oh, what's going on, to massive. To lockdown. I mean, it was that quick. It was done within 10 days, 2 weeks. It was lockdown in the UK.
Can I say something about this? Standing 6 feet and masks and lockdown. That was really what the cabal wanted to do. There was to see if we would obey.
Well, yeah.
They wanted to test whether we would obey their stupid ideas.
But we were scared. First of all, we had no choice, but we were also scared.
The whole thing was, they ramped up the fear. Of course they did. But they wanted to see whether, we would comply with their nonsense. And I can remember, because my parents were alive at that when it first started. And my dad was getting medication from the hospital. He had a respiratory problem, and he wears hearing aids or wore hearing aids, same as me, because we both had the same problem. And I had occasion to go into a hospital, I won't mention which one, to sort out a problem he had during the COVID time, the beginning of it, where they said that the hospitals were, full up, and I walked into one. I never wore a mask the whole time.
You were sweet.
I never wore a mask. Just walked in. The place was empty. So I could walk. I'll change my word there. But there was nothing going on. There was nobody in there. The hospital was empty. And then they built all these satellite hospitals all over the place.
Just like that.
Yeah.
And some of them were never used.
Most of them were never used.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what they used.
They were never used.
I don't know what they used for
that was just to give the impression that there was a problem. There wasn't. So yeah, and I think I went in 3 hospitals during COVID, all the same, empty, nothing going on. So just cleared all the patients out.
Yeah, and I think we're still, we're in the early years of COVID still. It's only 5 years old, so to speak. And I do think as the years go by, which is why I said in 15 years' time we'll have a different perspective on COVID.
You have to look at excess deaths. That's what you have to look at. Now, if you actually look at the numbers, the graph is going like that. Steep curve rising upwards, more and more excess deaths.
The world population is massive, and I think.
However, I don't like creating fear. I don't do that. That's not my thing. What I will say, and I'm not going to say any more than this, that in maybe the next 6 months, let's give it a number. Don't quote me on this. There will not be an issue with problems that have arisen from the vaccine.
Okay.
They will be sorted.
And will we know about it?
Oh, we all know about it. Most definitely.
Okay. Interesting.
There was a lot of buried methods of dealing with disease, not just on Earth, and I'm not going to say any more.
Well, I mean, it's been a theory of many people, hasn't it, of why it's happening and what it is. Yeah, it's and that's probably one of the reasons why I wanted to explore it with you, because I knew you'd have I knew it would be an interesting topic for debate. Yeah, it's interesting, and I'll be definitely interested to see how COVID pictures in the news over the next many years?
They will not talk about it. I mean, you have to understand that the mass media does not tell you anything that is in any way going to reveal what's been going on, because they were complicit with this entirely. Entirely complicit.
So yet again, on one of many subjects, watch this space, and thank you for your comments.